This person call and they say, hey, I'm with MrBeast, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, cool, who's that?
This was the craziest MrBeast video I've seen. When that grizzly bear comes out, like, what are you thinking?
It was crazy. The bear had free reign. And of course, they don't show the whole thing, you know, it's all sped up. But at one point, after I got out of the military, I ended up becoming homeless. And I was like, I'm done with this life. And I tried to kill myself. I got a lot of people asking me, like, why did you put 25K in that second car? It was purely based on views. Jimmy's at the top talking down at me. He goes, Byron, look to your left. And I look over and my son's got his head through the curtain and he's like, hey, Dad. And in this moment, I said, I'm either dying or I'm going to the hospital. There's no way I'm going to fail this challenge in front of my wife, daughter, and son. I guess it's never happened before on MrBeast, but...
Welcome back to the Beast Files. I am Jeff831 from season 1, and we're going to talk about not just the biggest challenges that MrBeast puts on, but the people behind it and their mindset. And today I'm sitting down with someone who went viral for taking on some of the most intense MrBeast challenges ever, Byron. He's a former Army Ranger.
I'm uncomfortable. I just started to flex.
He's a former Army Ranger, served over a decade. He's a kind of a real-life hero and advocates for veterans. And today we're going to break down kind of his mindset when he went into these 7 death traps, including being face-to-face with a grizzly bear. I can't wait to hear about that. That was frightening. But one thing he said that kind of hit me hard, and I've been thinking a lot about it since I saw it on the episode, is you can't have bravery or courage without fear. And in this conversation, we're going to learn what that really means to him. We're going to unpack his success or death theory and what it takes to be a real-life hero to your wife and kids. Stay tuned because we have Byron. Hey, Byron, welcome, man.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Super freaking blessed to be here and grateful. And hopefully I can pass on some of my mistakes, failures, and successes so you guys can, you know, change your trajectory or whatever it may be.
Love it, man. Well, it's funny. I watched the episode and I feel like I already know you. So it's fun to sit down with you. But like the success or death, and you mentioned it, and again, a lot of these things are kind of cliche. These are kind of one-liners, but when they come from you, it kind of feels like no, you actually believe this. Like,
oh yeah,
success or death is intense. Like, where did that come from for you? Where did it start?
Well, you know, it really is a lifetime of one's service, failure, tribulation that really has dictated the outcome you see today. I was homeschooled, heavily bullied back in the day. I really wanted to join the military. Having dyslexia, my mom homeschooled me back in the day. If you went to like special ed back in the early 90s and stuff, you would not be allowed to join the service if you were in like a special ed. That was just like a rule way back when. I don't know if it's the case anymore, but homeschooled me, ended up, you know, graduating with honors actually, and you know, because I had so many classmates, you know. Val Victoria, it's a joke. It's a homeschool joke.
I love it. It's so good. No, it's
so the
homecoming king.
Yeah, I was a homecoming king. We won't get into having crushes on teachers, so that gets weird.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's not do that.
No. So from there, I ended up joining the military, went into the Army, went to Ranger Battalion, 3rd Ranger Battalion to be exact. And that's where it really began to start. And it was like, I went into like selection for being in Ranger Regiment. So for those that you don't know, a lot of people can go to Ranger School. Pretty much anybody in the Army can go to Ranger School. It's just a leadership school. But being a Ranger is being at one of the 3 Ranger regiments, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. One's located at Fort Benning, the other one's in Savannah, Georgia, and the other one's in Washington State. And I spent a majority of my career there, and then went on to some other special operations units, conducted stuff there, and then got out, became a defense contractor, deployed also as a defense contractor. But through everything that I did in the military, and probably the hardest thing, and actually it's crazy because in the comments in my Instagram, I've been getting asked this question. It's just a lot of questions, but one is, what was the hardest thing you did in the military? And that would be Special Forces Combat Dive School in Key West. Wow. And in that mentality, there's no other option. It's pass. It's success. If you give yourself an avenue to get out, or, that scapegoat, you're going to use it at some point. If you have one path to survive, you're going to take that path. For example, I'm tied to a rock and I'm thrown in the water. There's only one way to get air, right? Especially, they had safety divers, but they're really good at not making themselves visible. Yeah. So it's a very disconcerting feeling as you have, like, Jimmy and, like, they were on the platform and he couldn't even, like, hold. I mean, I tried to move it, and I'm a pretty strong guy, I would say. And I was having a hard time moving the thing.
Was it a couple 100-pound boulder?
Oh, easily. And then I don't know how many feet in poundage of that chain was also attached to it, which was actually what I was more concerned with, because at some point the rock hits bottom, but you still got like 100 pounds worth of chain hanging to you, so it's going to take you there. But my only way to success was to the surface, so that's my only way out, especially when you can't look around and see that there's a safety diver. Like, I mean, it was crazy. I literally, they were there. I knew they were there, but they make sure you don't see them.
and my question is, like, the challenges that we saw on the show, did they actually happen in that order?
Yes.
Yeah, and so for you walk into this first challenge, you're like, obviously I have to get through this.
So I'll definitely get into that in a second, because it's really funny. So the mindset kind of began with all of that, and then after I got out of the military, I lost that resiliency. For some reason, as veterans, we do that because, the movie reel, the combat missions, the deployments, the being the tip of the spear, it's over. That movie, that clocker goes bam, and it's done. And now I'm, the world's greatest job, and then I lose it because of a divorce, and then I'm like, at one point I was sweeping floors on a construction site, and then I become a commercial diver, and then I lose that job because Obama sent all the diving jobs overseas, and I had this badass hard hat underwater while making great money, and then all of a sudden overnight we're making $14 an hour, and I can't provide for my family with that. So and then like I said, I was going through divorce, and I ended up becoming homeless, and I was like, I'm done with this life, and I tried to kill myself. And through that, I remember my last thoughts were terror, because I knew I'd made the wrong decision. Somebody else is going to tell my story to my kids, and I'm leaving that story up to some other dude or somebody else that may not like me. My ex may become, angry that I did that because she loses her child support. I don't know. But I was like, I can't believe I did this. Well, I wake up over 24 hours later with a cop sternum rubbing me, telling me to wake up. And I wake up with the worst hangover in my life. I had taken all of these medications at the time. And, I call it my greatest failure. And through that, I was like, I'm never going to do this again. Went to counseling, got myself right, did some alternative treatment methods, ayahuasca to be exact, changed my life forever. Like, when I say changed my life, I mean, I am not the same man. I mean, my ex-wife and I are great friends now, and she will tell you, and she'll sit right here next to me, and she'll look at you and say, this is not the man that I knew 8 years ago. Like, this is not the same dude. And
Would you say that these challenges now you're able to look at like if you always had the mindset where like, hey, a challenge is only going to make me better because I know I'm going to have to face fears, like, or did you have that mindset before this certain situation?
so I had that mindset, I lost it. And I say that and I tell that story to get where I'm at today. When I was homeless, I said, I'm not going to, like, the suicide had happened just prior to that. So now I'm homeless, pretty in a bleak situation, living in a car with a broken sunroof, under a bridge, quite literally, in Fort Walton. I'm trying to train dogs to, like, make ends meet. And I remember looking, I was like, I'm not going to let this situation get me down. I'm going to figure out a way to do this. Well, as I'm doing this, as I'm building out my business, which is I am now own the largest canine training facility on the Eastern Seaboard. We provide service dogs to veterans at no cost to veteran through our nonprofit. Which is Rescue 22. We do pet dogs. We do severe behavior modifications, and we produce and sell family protection dogs to protect families. And I built all that with my wife out of nothingness. So when I presented with a challenge, I went back to my mentality as a ranger in combat, going, okay, I am now presented with a problem. I'm going to come up with a solution. And you could ask all of my employees, don't ever come to me with a problem. You better come to me with the problem and very rapidly with a solution. And when I came to these challenges, I just put myself back in that. And you can ask, like casting, they have a girl named Lauren, absolute phenomenal human. And Lauren's like, you have any diet restrictions? What do you need? And like, they're looking at like, I'm like drinking like 4 gallons of water a day, super clean, because I don't know what's coming my way. I have no idea. And going back to what we were saying, like for the water challenge, I walk into this hotel and I look over, they have one of the, a different producer, I forget his name. And then there's like a line of wetsuits, and I'm looking at his thing, and they're all laughing at me because, like, I'm always in like SEER school mindset. SEER school is survival, escape, resistance, and evasion mode, right? It's a school that they teach you if you get captured by the enemy. So I'm sitting here, and I'm taking in everything. Visually, when I'm blindfolded, I'm listening. What am I doing? And everyone gets mad. They were getting mad at me. They're not like genuinely mad, but they're like, dang it, quit wargaming this and figuring it out, like. So I'm like, well, apparently they're throwing me in the ocean and I'm probably going to have to escape something underwater. And they're like, they just kind of looked at me, and I'm like, he goes, how do you figure that? He didn't tell me that I was right. He just like, how do you figure that? I was like, well, you have a line of wetsuits over there and you're covered in salt and we're only about 3 miles from the ocean. And and then I knew that something like that was coming. After that, it was game on. It was like I didn't really have a good idea. The buried alive thing was a complete, actually all of it was a surprise.
Well, it's crazy. And like, this is the thing is like, you can spend so many cycles trying to figure out what's happening. And guess what? You're never right, but you can be directionally accurate some of the times. But like most of the time, you just kind of have to have your mindset ready to take it in, quickly assess what you need to do, to your point,
right,
to succeed and move on. But like I really, especially with your background, obviously, with a big boulder and a chain, if anyone's gonna get out, you are. But like going into the grizzly bear, like when that comes out, like what are you thinking?
So it's really funny because they have this bear, and I remember, they were with they have the safety and everything, and I don't even know what's going on. I was like, hey, you're gonna understand when the mask comes off, but there's gonna be a little string. Stay on your side of the string. And I'm like, as soon as I walked into the room, I could smell the bear. Or I smelled an animal, I should say. I didn't know it was a bear. And to be completely honest with you, so with BTS Canine, which stands for Be the Solution, it's literally my mantra.
Love it.
BTS Canine, we train dogs that want to harm you. That's their Like they're severe behavior modifications. We trained family protection dogs to be a less than lethal means of protection, meaning so every day when I train these dogs, I actually take a bite to my left bicep pretty regularly, you know, or my staff does, or I'm there and I'm working with these dogs, teaching them how to safely engage a bad guy. And then also obediently come off and go right back into a healing position. So when I see this bear, I'm like, it's not as edgy, but what made that scene, it was just disconcerting. I'm a hunter. I'm a very avid hunter. And I have seen what these bears do in the wild. And what's really jacked up is that evening I was just like screwing around on social media, and it was like wildest animal attacks caught on film, and this like bears mauling this dude, and I'm like, wonderful, you know, and like they're like, you know, and they got that, you know, there's the one where they're like, you know, you look so calm. I'm like, I'm not calm. I'm literally in my head like, God, Lord, please don't swat at me and just fillet me.
And so what was that string like? Like, what was it like? Did they have like a sensor? Like, could that bear have gone over the like? I don't
Oh
understand.
no, he did. Like flat out, the bear had gone over it multiple times, and it was like that was more of like a guideline for me, but like the bear had free reign. And of course, they don't show the whole thing, you know, it's all sped up. But at one point, the bear's just like walking around, like doing his own thing. And he's got that bag and he's flinging it all over the place like a dog with a toy. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, dude. And, you know, the rules were all bags must be moved to the location, all of them. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to get everything I can grab, let him be preoccupied for the moment, and I'm going to figure this last bag out. And then I basically was like, I got over and stuck myself, you know, kind of like off to the side, grabbed it, and like obviously you guys all saw that's, you know, and I just got away.
Well, like, what did safety say to you before going into this? Like
that exactly what I said. It was like, hey, you're gonna understand when you see it. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Is this
like in the event that the bear engages, like what was the plan? Like,
so they had a safety in the corner, and I believe because your adrenaline's pumping, and then I could be wrong. I think they had a trank gun right there. Yeah, and I think, but I wasn't really paying attention. I was more worried about my money than I was about the safety part of it, because all I knew is I just had to outrun everybody in that room, and I knew I was good at that. So,
and yeah, that's the thing with the bear is like, yeah, you can't be the one to catch it.
You know, Jimmy had the high ground. He was good.
You got to keep the talent safe. But
that's right.
So, like, you think about all the stuff you've gone through. Like, was this like, oh, okay, another one, or was this like, did it hit different?
The bear?
Yeah.
No, not really.
I love it. That's what
no,
it felt like.
It really wasn't. I got through it, and then it was kind of like, that wasn't that bad.
Which one scared you the most?
They were all very uncomfortable, right? I would probably have to say, yeah, honestly, it's weird because I view fear so differently than most people. I'm just weirdo. In Jimmy's words, I'm a psycho. But I would have to say the one that was like, I was like, was the climb. Or not the climb, the apparatus. Just because, I mean, you could see it in film. The whole thing started to sway and move. And I don't know if it was the fear of being up high or the fear of falling and losing. I'm that's kind of like I'm even confused about what I was more scared of. I've got, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jumps from both static line, free fall, rappels, fast ropes. You know, you're being shot at in some cases. You know, so it kind of goes hand in hand. And it was funny because like on the apparatus, you know, I'm standing there and they catch my face in this slot process because they're like, I'm sitting there and I'm like getting ready to you know, one of the guys walks up to me. He's like, dude, he's like, you should totally jump if you feel comfortable. And I was like, all right, you know, like that doesn't bother me. You know, if you go look at Ranger School videos, we do this course called the Water Confidence course, and you have to climb on a massive apparatus, very similar, and then you have to go down a zip line like 50 to 100 feet over the ground, and then you got to like let go, scream Ranger, and go into the water. And you have a big balancing beam you have to go across, and you don't have any safeties on you. It's just water that breaks your fall. So I'm kind of used to that stuff. And so I see the bag. You guys see it. I'm like, boom. And I lose like, what was it, 50 grand? And I'm like, ugh. And then the next one happened. And I'm like, and at one point I'm like holding the thing and I'm like just staring at it. And I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. And I literally, and I guess it's never happened before on MrBeast, but I like started to negotiate my money back. And I'm like, he's like, what? And I was like, okay. And then I did the jump and I rookie move on my end. And I shouldn't be even saying I'm a rookie because I'm not a rookie at it, but I didn't adjust my harness before the jump. So the scream on the way down was a scream of pain because I had completely pinched the boys. And I'm like, and he's like talking to me, and I'm like trying to look up in the harness, and I'm like, he's like, you're crazy, and I'm like, I've been told that once or twice, and I was like, please just get me down from here right now because I'm hurting.
That one looked so simple, but then you kind of realize, okay, like you're on this beam, you're 100 feet up, you have to reach over to balance yourself, and then you have to throw it down. Like that one's. Like, I think that was probably one of the most challenging if I was in your shoes.
Yeah, I would say out of all of them, and one that was more uncomfortable, the most uncomfortable was obviously being buried alive for me.
Yeah, I like, that is the question I get a ton is like, what's your feel? Like claustrophobia, like I just do not like to be in tight spaces. For very long, like when you see it in your eyes, you take off your blind for like like what immediately went through your mind when you had to be buried alive?
Well, so in one of my courses in the military, they taught you. Jimmy's like, he literally said that though. He goes, I swear I'm not going to cast a Ranger ever again. He's like, you have training for that being buried alive? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, yeah, like it's, you know, in case you get like captured and they do some crazy stuff because they teach you how to like, you know, whether you're in a coffin or whether they're making a bunch of space so you can start moving dirt. I mean, obviously there's a limitation to everything. So depending on your depth and all that stuff, but you know, kind of like let dirt get behind you if there's not a coffin, all that kind of jazz. But there's a bunch of stuff, but I ended up like it was over an hour actually. I was like looking at my watch and they're burying me over an hour and I'm just cracking jokes. Like that's how I handle like stress and pressure. Always have, even in the midst of like combat, I was always cracking jokes. And yeah, I just, as soon as it was like 3, 2, 1, go, it was do exactly what I knew to do and get up in there. And it was just brute force. Like, I got to get out of this because the longer I take to do this, the more money's going to burn.
It's Jimmy said it, and it's clear that kind of your Ranger training and your military background paid off. And like how fitting is it? I mean, This is the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. It's the
Yep.
75th anniversary of the Ranger School, started
Yep.
in 1950. So it's like, what a great representation of the training and the commitment and dedication, like it's like of the U.S. Army. Was there any difference between doing this alone versus doing this with other people?
I would rather do it alone. Everything that you're trained on in the military, as a matter of fact, when I was an instructor, I would yell at students, and you'd hear people like, "Yeah, you got this, buddy," and I'd look at him like, "Shut up, stop encouraging him," because when I'm assessing somebody for a special operations position, whatever it is, whatever you're out there doing, I'm assessing for their ability to self-motivate. Self-motivate. Like you don't need to hear a crowd in the distance cheering you on. You don't need to have someone telling you, "You're doing a good job, buddy." You need to be able to self-motivate yourself for your own goals. My goal is to accomplish this thing, whatever it is, whether it's be in school, whether it be a challenge on MrBeast, whatever in life, to self-motivate yourself to get to to the finish line. And if you need all of these accolades and people cheering you on, you're going to fail. You're going to quit.
And I love it because we got two dads here who have probably learned the hard way with this. Is like so many times we're looking for external validation, whether it's through promotions or someone telling you did a good job. And don't get me wrong, those are nice to have,
They are.
but it's not going to take you where you want to go.
Correct.
It's got to be internal. It's got to come from within, and it's got to be real. And it's a great way to figure out truly what you value and what's important to you. Because if you can't push yourself to do it, you probably don't want it bad enough.
That's it. And you have to really genuinely take yourself, assess every little thing, because I saw it, I could look at a group of men going through whatever it was, pre-scuba, Ranger School, and I could tell you who would pass and who would fail before that would ever happen. Because the ones who were the quiet ones, because you look at it like in all the selections, it's an assessment of the individual. It's not an assessment of your platoon or your squad or your team. It's an assessment of you, your ability to perform an action underneath duress and in an austere environment, right? So, and that's everything. Dive school, water's the great equalizer, as we always call it. Ranger school, I'm going to take your food, I'm going to take your sleep, and I'm going to make you really, really wet, hungry, and cold, and cranky, right? Like worst thing ever. And men and women go there, and I'm a huge and I will publicly say I'm a huge advocate for women going to Ranger school, because Ranger school is not a ninja school. It's a leadership school. People have this huge misconception. You go to Ranger school and learn all this crazy stuff. No, you're learning skill level 1, 2, and 3 tasks inside of a manual. It's an open book test. And you're being assessed on your ability to take these now men and women that are cold, wet, hungry, tired, and get them to do the right thing. And oh, by the way, at the end of this, you're going to be peered by everybody else. So you better have a good attitude and the right attitude, or you're going to get voted off the island. So, and that's the life I lived for the better part of 20 years. And it's all about self-reflection, continuous self-reflection, and also the biggest thing most military members have, and veterans, if you're a veteran and watching this, dying of your ego. I had an old sergeant major I had sergeant majors and first sergeants tell me this, legends, Edmund Seeley, Sergeant Major Merritt, Sergeant Major Birch. These guys are just legends in the community. You guys can look them up on Google, and they're just amazing men, amazing leaders. And they said, it's not what you did today or yesterday, it's what you're doing today. I don't care about what you did yesterday. I don't care about what you did 10 years ago. I care about what you're doing right now. What are you doing right now? Nope. Don't make your veteran or whatever it was you did in high school your peak of your life. You need to go. I'll tell you what, and I'll tell every one of you guys, MrBeast ain't my peak. It's not going to become my identity, and there's more to come. Let me tell you.
Well, but it's a fun chapter. You know,
It
and
is.
again, it it's a YouTube episode that more and more people are going to see you doing this than they've ever seen you. But to your point, it's just you getting to challenge yourself. And again,
Absolutely.
I think you and I both know that the true light gets revealed through these hardships, through these challenges where you push yourself
Absolutely.
into places that you've never been, and you get through it, and then you just level up, and it's a ton of fun. I mean, like, so you mentioned kind of these mentors, the sergeant majors, that kind of share these things that stick with you. As a dad, I'm sure you were doing the same thing with your children. Like, so,
Oh
like,
yeah.
you think about your kids, like, what is one or two kind of philosophies or mantras that if I asked your kids, like, hey, what does dad always say? Like what's a code to live by? What would one of those two be?
First and foremost is there's no such thing as quitting. Period. Like I don't let them give up on anything, ever. Now, I, as a good father, will look at something and assess when it's time for us to hang the hat up on something and maybe come back to it because now we're just getting bad reps in and we're getting nowhere with it. But as a child, and I attest this to my mother and father because they taught me that perseverance, that resilience to not give up. And then that was tested under fire by the military, by the fire, like it was forged there even more so. So that's number one. Number two is humility and ownership. So I guess that's kind of the two things. So humility, being humble, and being able to, yeah, I did some great things, but it does not make me better than you, and it doesn't make me better than anyone else in this world. It just means that was my journey, and I learned from it, and hopefully, I have enough humility to and to share it with the world and be ready for that ownership. So, like, perfect example. I've been on podcasts before where people ask me what happened in my marriage, and I'm like, my divorce marriage, and I was a cheater. I was a young, dumb idiot who made some poor choices, and the other individual, in her very own right, said, I'm out. No matter how bad something is going to come at you, it is better to own your fallacies, learn from them, and hopefully you can take those fallacies and move people to never make those same mistakes. And it took me, and that one I will say right now, took me many years because there were two things that had to occur before I could do that. I had to die of my ego because I didn't want anyone to think I was capable of doing wrong. So I have to be able to showcase my fallacies and own them. And three, or two, I can't count apparently, you have to take total ownership. You have to take that ownership.
And it's crazy because I mean I'm sure you experience it. Like that's where you get true freedom. Is like
It is.
You own your mistakes and you learn from them and you're vulnerable with them. It's like I'm in the same boat. Like I had my last drink. I just wasn't a good drinker. I wasn't good with it. I had my last drink in May 9 years ago.
That's amazing.
And a few years later, like I look back and go, oh my gosh, I am so grateful for that. And you kind of own it. It's
right.
it's an interesting thing when you can own your shortcomings, but you need to learn from them. And dude, I love that you're open with this stuff. And I think this is when it comes to being a good dad. Like these are great things to be able to teach your kids. Like when did you know you wanted to be a dad?
I kind of always did. I always grew up wanted a family. I rushed into my first marriage. I was very young. I came off of a deployment that was really rough. And I'm like, I'm not going to... in my brain, I didn't think that I was going to make it through the global war on terrorism alive. And so I wanted to leave a legacy, I guess, if you will. I don't know. I was very young. I was like 21, 22. So that kind of like, I was just a child trying to be an adult, and I was thrown into a circumstance where I had to grow up super fast, being in the military and going to war. So I don't really know where, I know I wanted it, but it probably, and I don't, and I tell this to people all the time. Actually my two oldest daughters asked me, do you regret ever marrying mom? And I was like, no, not at all, because I would never have them to. But also, the lessons I learned there would never it's all a domino effect. And being where I am today, if I had succeeded in killing myself, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'd be 6 feet under, right? I have the best life on the planet. I have the best wife. I have the best daughters. I have the best son. My life is literally immaculate. And now I have this awesome platform that I talk to people. Dang, I'm getting choked up talking about this. Like, to better them, like, hey, make better decisions in your life, whether it be in health, whether it be in mental health, whether it be in just business, right? And I learned these things not because I was educated on them, but I was educated via really crappy decisions. So if I could be like, hey, don't do that, that's not a good move. Let me tell you what happens if you do that, and someone goes, dang, man, yeah, he's right,
But it's so true. It's like, this is one of the things that I've realized is like, there's so much beauty that's happened in my life through the bumps, through these challenges, through the bad decisions. I'm not encouraging to make more bad decisions on my part, or I'm not saying, hey, I can't wait for the next obstacle, but I know they're going to come. And I know if I look hard enough, I'm going to find the beauty in it. And,
right. And now my life has gotten to a point where I'm looking for a challenge.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not kidding you. A year and a half ago, my wife and I decided to sell our house. We now live on a 40-acre ranch, and we have Texas Longhorns right out here. And I do cattle. It's kind of a full-time job. It's a passion hobby thing, but it's not really. But I have some amazing partners that also live here and help with the ranch handing and stuff. But I'm constantly looking for a challenge. I can't wait for the next time I get a phone call from, MrBeast. And I can tell you right now, like, one of the things that really stands out was when I didn't know who MrBeast was, similar to yourself, and initially until I was on the show, and I was talking to Lauren. She was kind of like the casting person who was assigned to me, and I was like, the only thing I want in life is to make this world a better place when I leave it. And leave it with my legacy, leave it with my stories, leave it with people being able to go back and hear what I have to say. With my notorious one-liners, and I literally went into the headquarters to go to the bathroom, and on the wall, it says, making the world a better place. And I'm like sitting there and I'm staring at the mirror in the bathroom. I'm like, holy moly, like, this guy is next level. And then of course, I go down the rabbit hole, and he's helping feed and get tables at kids' schools in Africa. And he's getting killing child labor and, sourcing things that are child labor free. And I'm sitting there going, holy crap, this guy is an absolute, he's a man after my own heart. He is a man that literally is someone who wants to see the better, and I can see it. He and I talked about it, where I was like, when something goes wrong on set and costs more money, you can see it in his face. It's not, everything is the bottom line to him is to have money to go to children for food or to the next thing that's going to help with something else. That's what he cares about.
I think the neat thing about MrBeast, Jimmy, and the entire team is, they're entertaining us while making the world a better place. And some people have compared himself to the next Walt Disney. But I think it's that and then some. And
Oh yeah.
never in the history of the world has someone been able to reach so many people, especially young people. You know,
Well,
like
he
when
became a
I go out,
billionaire in less than 8 years.
and it's crazy. And like when I go, I was at Disney last week with my family for spring break, and man, I get stopped, and who do I get stopped by? It's the young people. It's like Jimmy is making an impact on these people,
Yep.
and you and I again, we're not. Our identity isn't directly tied. We're not just MrBeast challenge people,
Right.
um, but we definitely have an ability to make the world a better place through him, and apart from him. So like, one thing I would ask you is, you, I can feel you want to be a great dad, and you're doing it. Like, what advice would you give to young men who are thinking about having a family or just became kind of a dad for the first time?
First and foremost, ooh, this will get me. It'll get you too. Be present. Don't be sitting there like this 24/7 on your phone. Those moments are fleeting. And every time I scroll through social media, it'll pop up and it's always a reminder to me. It's like one day they're going to come in that room for the last time and say, Daddy, can you put me to bed?
Yeah.
Or Daddy, can you hold me? And or they're going to not put their head in your lap anymore. I have a almost 18-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter, and for the most part, all of those moments are gone. Yeah. And to be present with a child is to influence them for years to come, and they're watching you. They're watching your every move, how you react, how you respond. If you're extremely reactive in a negative manner, they're going to become extremely reactive in a negative manner. If you have a foul mouth, I'm working on it, they're going to emulate you in every aspect of your life, no matter what. So understanding that they are a impressionable mind and an impressionable living, breathing creature, it is your responsibility to mold that. And a lot of people will say that it's primarily the mother, and it's not. In my 4 children, I have watched the massive influence that my impact has on my children.
And those words ring super true, but I think the flip side I'd love to hear is like, at least for me, my kids, my sons, I have 2 boys, have taught me more about life than any mentor, coach, or teacher. So is there anything, and it doesn't have to be kind of explicit, it doesn't have to be direct, but is there anything that your kids have taught you about life?
Two things hit me hard, which are their innocence and to maintain that for as long as they can. I lost it when I was 17. My innocence was gone and lost because of war. And that was hard. Yeah. Whew. And then I would say patience. That would probably be the biggest one, because having been a ranger, having gone through the things that I went through at such a young age, I don't have a lot of patience. And so my children, the dog training really prepared me to be a father in a way that I don't even know how to describe, because you have to be patient with a child. You have to understand, you know, you're sitting there and you're explaining to your daughter and she's making you angry and you're like, why aren't you getting this? I told you this 6 times. And then you realize, oh, she's only 4. She didn't understand what you were saying.
Totally. And she has emotions and she has
Right.
different values or different interests right now. Yeah, it's
Man, look at you getting me all emotional in public here.
hey, but this is the real stuff about, you know, it doesn't matter how strong of a man you are and how tough you are.
This is all normal, man. If you're not doing this, guys will sit there and they want to be like, hey, bro's a choice word. You know, he's like, that's cool. You can have that feeling, but like, there's not, I'm still a human. There's still humanity.
And speaking of emotions and family, you mentioned this earlier, but I really like, how many of the challenges were your family present, and when did like
The
when
last,
was that first time?
I think it was only the last 3.
Okay, and so you knew they were there. Did that change? Like, did that give you additional pressure? Did it give you more inspiration? A little bit of both?
No, the only one it changed was the climb.
And it just gave you that extra boost to go, there's no way.
Speaking of it, that's my wife.
But I feel you. It's like in Beast Games, it was episode 8 where I hadn't seen my wife and kids for 4 weeks. And
Yeah.
they showed up and like, it was like literally one of the top 5 moments of my life. And it gave me this boost that I didn't know I needed. And gave me a ton of fire too. Like that was like the most fired up I'd ever been. And it's just always a good reminder of like, you know, choosing a great partner, having a family. Like obviously it's our job as the father to, you know, provide and to be a great leader.
Right.
Man, it doesn't mean we can't get inspiration from them.
Absolutely. I mean, and you can get it with them not present. I mean, you know, I know my wife, my son, and my daughters are all at home. I know that they're doing their thing, you know, and I know they're rooting me on. I mean, they're fiending at the phone every night, like, you know, what'd you do today? They're waiting for that call that I passed. You know, they're not sitting there going, you know, they're not wanting me to come home. I mean, very clearly, especially when they see what's online, you know, and everything is temporary. Like, you know, not to be cliche, and I'm the king of one-liners, but like pain is temporary, right? And I don't like the rest of that because it says pain is temporary, pride is forever. I don't like to be prideful. I am proud of the things that I've done, but I don't want to be prideful of that. I'm very proud of what I accomplished on MrBeast. I'm very proud of what I accomplished in the military. But being prideful is the first step to making something identify you.
Of course. And
some may say that, you know, I'm identified as an Army Ranger and I identify as that. No, that's just a chapter in my life that I did. It's not who I am. I actually would rather be known as the philanthropist and mental advocate and dog trainer, helping people have better relationships with their dogs than known for all the rest of that stuff.
And guess what? You know this, but to everybody listening, like with that attitude and that mindset, that's what you will be known for.
I hope so.
And so, you know, and so when I think about this, you kind of mentioned your kids are like, hey, like, I know you got through the challenge. How was it? Like, they expected you to do well, and you came home with $384,000, which is awesome. Like,
yeah.
Like, and you think about like the time where you got called for this to the time where this thing aired and you won $384,000. Like, what does this do for you and your family?
So, I mean, we were able to get our tractor. So, like, prior to this, going into it, you know, I had a pretty expensive tractor blow up accidentally. Needed a tractor on the ranch. And we're in, you know, there were some other financial things that we needed to take care of. And now because of that, we were able to do so. And then obviously it was really crazy because of the timing. It's like the universe, it's like things happened almost right afterwards that it was like, oh my God, if we didn't have this, we'd be in some trouble. And that stress was like, oh wow, you know, you're just so grateful for it. There's not really a word to be able to describe that, and then to be able to be told that, like, video is like number 2 in the world or something like that, and like the analytics are going through the roof, and you're reading the comments, and people are asking for me to come back, and people are asking me to be a co-host in the comments, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, I'm just like honored that people feel that way. I mean, I think the funniest comment that I read was like, this dude doesn't have PTSD. This dude's got nostalgia. And I about came out my chair laughing so hard. I was like,
Well, dude, because
actually, I didn't think we didn't even bring that challenge up. It's actually the only challenge I didn't think I was going to pass.
Which one?
The landmine. So we literally were. It was like all day. Like, there were just crazy things happening all day. So it was like kind of a start and stop. But like, you see, and they didn't show half of it. There was one turn where, I'm sitting there shaking with the controller. And I was like beating sweat because, like, one, I don't play video games. Like, I don't. Like, I didn't grow up playing video games. I currently don't play video games. But here I have a video game controller with a live car that I'm driving through a minefield, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to make it out of this, because like you guys saw, like the first 2 vehicles back to back blew up, and I'm like, and I regretted my decision, because I made that decision, and I got a lot of people asking me, like, why did you put $25K in that first car or that second car? And it was purely based on y'all out there views. It's like, why did you put a fiberglass boat on the roof? It was literally to add flair to whatever it was I was doing, because I knew there's a lot more, and I was like, I'll sacrifice $25K. I'll take the small bag that I lost a little bit of money in, that I'll put it in that car, because I know that's the whole premise. I'm there, right? So no matter what, if I win and I win something, I'm not greedy, is what I'm saying.
And it's cool that you have the forethought while you're in this intense moment to kind of go, oh, this will make for good content.
You see it in the thing. I'm literally battling with my own mind. I'm like, yeah, we can put 25. Let's put $25K in that second car. And then, like, right after that, I can't remember if it was Jimmy or Carl, and they look at me and they're like, you don't want to do that, did you? Like, nah. in my core, like, no. But I want to do it because I want there to be more intensity to what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah, it's I feel that, and especially when you're in the zone, and that happened to me in Beast games, where it's like, I know exactly what I want to do, but I want to play this out a little bit. Like, I want to drive up the intensity. So, speaking of the last challenge with the fiberglass boat, like, I think when you walked out there with the fire extinguisher, like, you looked so confident, like, dude, all the money's going to be there. Did you have any doubt?
The doubt I had was like, because you can always be wrong, having been a master breacher, having a lot of experience with explosives, I was thinking, that bomb is going to have a gasoline accelerant. It's going to have a lot of det cord or some sort of explosive in there that's also going to set that off. It's going to be a lot. I mean, and they weren't kidding, man. That thing was full. That was a very, very large bomb. And I was worried, and you kind of hear me in the thing going through what, the flash accelerant. The accelerant's going to burn real fast. So that was my hope. And that was my biggest doubt. I was like, oh man. And then also, fiberglass burns forever. It really does. So I wasn't worried about it because I had made it so encased that even if that boat decided to just stand up there and burn, it wasn't going to affect my money at all.
Yeah, it was I mean, it was a cool challenge, but it was one of those ones where like you looked super calm, and it's like working with three people for 8 hours to try to do like you bond. I'm sure you had a ton of fun
Oh
kind of
man,
chatting up with those guys.
dude, they're so cool, man. They're just such awesome people, every one of them.
So that's Byron. I'm Jeff. This is the Beast Files, and we'll see you next time.
I'm uncomfortable. I just start to flex.